the ballot is the starting line. When people doubt election results, democracy itself is on the line. But there's a way to restore trust by verifying elections at the precinct level using publicly accessible records. Every county should release a cast vote record, CVR, file by precinct, a spreadsheet where each row corresponds to a ballot, linked to a digital image of that ballot. Using tools such as the ABE, Auditable Ballot Examination System, election audits can be conducted from home with a laptop equipped with dual monitors. Neighbors, regardless of party, can spot-check results. One reads the image, the other checks the data. By auditing every 21st or 30th ballot, as determined by the auditor, it is possible to verify machine accuracy across all contests. Should any discrepancy be detected, further investigation of that particular race is warranted. This can involve sorting the relevant race in Excel to closely examine undervotes. Ideally, the error rate should not exceed 1 marked error per 250,000 completed bubbles. ABE, a tool for the people and election departments. Here is a link to a video of former Secretary of State of Arizona Ken Bennett, who was the chairman of Audit, Elections, USA, explain his 5 key steps to verifiable elections. Play here.
Okay, I just want to share my 5 key principles or steps or whatever for sure ensuring elections with integrity. One is integrity in the voter registration system. Now, this can mean different things to different people. You know, some people are totally focused on, has the voter approved citizenship and on and on and on. To me, integrity in the voter registration system is as simple as state law already says that the list of voters and their names and addresses are public records. Yes, there's about 8,000, I think, Arizona voters whose names are allowed to be redacted and their address because they're battered wives or they are judges or they are police officers or whatever. But the other 4.3 million Arizonans in every county, we know a name and we know an address. With that level of transparency, you can go to a county and say, okay, in Yavapai County, how many Kenneth Roy Bennetts are there? And even better, you can go to 2150 Ewan Drive and see that, is there a Kenneth Roy Bennett registered there? If so, fine. If there's a Kenneth Roy and a Ken and a Kenny and a Ken Roy and a Ken R, and then we got a problem. Now, in some rare occasions, there might be a Kenneth Roy Bennett Sr. and a Kenneth Roy Bennett Jr. So just verify that election that I talked about that we verified the statewide recount. We did this at the Secretary of State's office. We took the database of how many voters voted at any particular address. Usually it was 2, 3, 1, 4. We hit a address in Maricopa County, 438 voters at one address. We thought we discovered some big problem. We run out there in our cars. It's a retirement home. And there were 600 people that lived in it, 438 of them voted in the election, no problem. But at least you checked. Second fundamental principle is once you've made sure that the voter registration system is who it is, you make sure that only people from that list are voting. Pretty simple, but one of the things that's captured in an election is who voted. Not how you voted, of course, but did you vote, yes or no? It's called your voter history. And every time an election occurs, every voter in the registration system gets a yes or no as to whether they voted in that election or not. Everyone that voted in an election should have been on the registered voter list. Third is, does the number of ballots equal the number of people that voted? Pretty simple, but needs to be verified. 4, and this is what we're basically here talking to you about today, is we've developed a tool. We're not trying to sell it. We're just trying to make it available. If you don't want to use our tool, there are some other tools around the country. So we are not here as a vendor trying to convince you, to convince the Board of Supervisors to use something. We're just saying that we have a tool available that helps primarily in this number 4 key area. Every time a ballot goes through a machine, the machine takes a picture of it. And then the programming from the election management system is basically looking for black dots in certain key locations on that ballot image. And black dots in certain places mean a black dot here is a vote for Smith, a black dot here is a vote for Jones, a black dot here is a vote for Garcia. This critical step is basically saying, look at the ballot images and then look at the record of those votes that's in a spreadsheet called the cast vote record. A spreadsheet has rows and columns. And each row is a particular ballot. Row number 100 is the 100th ballot that was processed in the election. The columns are Smith and Jones and Garcia and Bennett and Brakey and whatever. And so if you look at ballot 100 and you see that there's a vote for Smith in this race and Jones in that race and Garcia in that race, you go to the cast vote record and simply confirm that it recorded a vote for those people in those races. That's all that's happening here. There's a fifth kind of cherry on the top. If you ever needed to, you can use the paper ballots to verify that the ballot images were captured correctly by the machines. But those to me are the 5 keys for a transparent, trackable, and publicly verifiable election. There's other things that are important as well, but those are the main 5. Here is a cast vote record. Here's ballot number 1. Now, this is public information from Dane
Yes.
County, Wisconsin? Is this?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe it is. It could be, I forget, but it's, yeah. We got 2 counties up here.
Yeah, we'll show you some data that's publicly out there, some counties. And this is not a new thing for some counties across the country to publish their ballot images and their cast vote record. This is from Dane County, Wisconsin. From a race in what, 18, 20?
This is 2024.
24?
It's just
Okay.
recent.
Okay, so a row on the cast vote record is the ballot. Ballot 12 was the 12th ballot that was processed in that election, and the columns are the choices that they made. We don't know who voted ballot 12, but on ballot 12, they picked Cox and Schiffinelli for governor, they picked Glassman for controller, and on and on and on. And if you pull up the image of ballot 12, and if you have a system, and that's what Abe does, Abe takes a big file of ballot images, which the county keeps, and the cast vote record, and it simply correlates them. And it hyperlinks them so that you can click on one and see if it's reflected in the other. And this is what Abe does, and Abe is not some big thing that we spend a lot of money. As John said, Abe is basically using Microsoft Excel with some macro programs to say, go get this from there. So you got to tell it, okay, here's where the ballot images are in this folder. The cast vote record is in this folder. We want you to put those together and give us the results in this folder. And that's all Abe does.
Okay, we're in the file folder, and we're going to go ahead. As you can see, I'm highlighting this right here, Pima County. Okay, that's the test we're going to do. And we're going to do Dane County, Wisconsin, the 2024 election. And I'm going to use version 3.6, and I'm going to open it up. Activated the macro, and Excel will accept it because I gave it permission. You can read these directions, but time is of the essence, so I'm going to go fast here. Click here on this orange, click here to start, okay? Yes, I want to continue. Click to select the folder containing the ballot images. So I'm going to click on that, A. So let's find A. Oh, there it is. Then right down here where I'm moving it, you can see Dane County ballot images. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. Okay, B. Now I'm going to go to B. This is Dane County results produced by Abe. This is where we're going to store them. Okay, and then I'm going to say okay, because right down here you can see this is lit up. So I'm going to say okay. The cast vote record that's looking for the database because it needs to know where it's coming from and where it is. So I'm going to go to File C, and on this one I'm going to have to double click it, and there it is. And then I click on it. Then you can see it's lit up down here. It says the best. So we're going to open that, and now that is entered. Now this screen pops up, and I just minus it down because it will come back later to be used. To select ballot log. It's at, yep, ballot log database. Going for that. Then I'm going for the cast vote record, the CVR database, and it's got to know where to look and where to find this stuff. And then where it's marked precincts, that's what we're working with. And then we're going to create CVRs, hyperlink to all ballot images, and we're going to keep them all together. We're not going to separate by precincts, because if I do, that will take about 40 minutes. And we have 368,000, I'm circling right here, 26 records. And we're going to hyperlink them twice, and we're going to find all the missing ones will be outlined in red. I'm going to turn a clock on because we want to see how long it takes to go ahead and hyperlink 700,000 records and put them onto one sheet. Now, if I was going to do precincts, like I said, it would take about 40 minutes. I've got this thing already. I'm not going to do unders, overvotes, write-ins, or separate by precincts. That's another run. I always run this first to have a master sheet all hyperlinked, because I'm going to look for undervotes, missing, let's put it this way. You do the presidential race and you find that people have circled the circle, they haven't filled in the bubble. It only works if you fill in the bubble. That's how it works. So anyway, I'm going to hit start and continue, and now we're getting ready to go. Okay, preparing CVR files for processing. You'd be surprised how fast this thing can go. Process indicator, adding links and highlighting names. 50 seconds. When it gets to the end, it's going to ask, do I want to combine? I have that built into it because let's say you decide to run ABE on a separate computer, let's say the day after the election, and you're still counting votes and you got 80% done. If you want to start processing that 80% and look for problems, you can. And then when you get final, you can run ABE again, collect all the data, and then it will combine one with the other, because you don't want to lose the work that you already did. 1 minute and 28 seconds. Like I said, there's nothing to combine. No. Done. 1 minute and 36 seconds. That is pretty fast. There are 646 missing ballot images and 645 missing individual CVRs. We have an explanation for that about it. Dane County was the first election county in the country that we talked into posting these ballot images online for the public.
Okay, so what it did, there's 368,028 rows, but up at the top there's 2 title rows. So we had counted for 386,026 ballots. And now the ballot image is associated with each ballot. And you can click on that image and see the ballot image and see that did they vote for Harris or Trump, or did they vote for Baldwin or Olson, and now you can basically side by side on a screen, you can look at a ballot image and make sure that the votes on that ballot image were correctly recorded in the cast vote record.
Next, what I'm going to do is something that I think is just quite incredible. And I'm going to show you how we can take the CVR and get the results off of it by using Microsoft Pivot. So you follow me on the mouse. I'm going up here to Insert, and I'm lighted up column H, because that's what I want to look at, is column H. And then I'm going to here, and these are recommended pivot tables. And I'm going to use the top one, and it's going to wind up spitting out the results. And here we go, very quick. Okay. And now it's going to open up a new tab, and here it is. Now, what is incredible about this is, first off, you see it matches 368. We know we have that many records, and then I'll have a chart over here eventually in the next slide that will show how this thing all matches up. But what's really slick, you can see it's sheet 1 now. I'm going to move it over here, and its results. Now let's take a look. Wow, this is a pretty heavy result, but this is incredible. Watch this. I'm going to click on the number, and let's say, well, gee, there was what? Let's look at undervotes. There was 1,410. I'm going to click on that. Wow, look what it just did. It just opened up all of them with undervotes and is telling me where they are, that I could go ahead and identify and take a look and see, gee, is that a real undervote or no? And I don't look at undervotes this way, but on a close race that's really close, you can segregate all those undervotes and take a look at them. So I wanted to show you that. There are 3 rows up here on the top, okay? Now we're going to pull it down to here, and it says that we have 1,410. Is that correct? Let's take a look. This one, 1,410. That is correct.
So now you've put all of the undervotes in one place, and you can go through and look at it. And we're going to see some examples in just a couple more slides of how undervotes occur, sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally by the vote. And if you have a race that's decided by 2 or 3 votes, you may find some undervotes that were actually, Arizona's a voter intent state. If there's a question, the county election officials have to try to decide what was the intent of the voter. We'll see that here in a second. Another thing though that you get is you get some information about the different kind of ballot styles. And in this county, for example, they've got a voting jurisdiction out of 368,000 voters that voted. So there's probably, what, 500,000 registered or 600,000? They've got 2 people that are in somewhere where they have their own ballot style just for those 2 people. Because they're in this city council race, but they're in that supervisor district, and then they're in this school board district, and they're in that water district. And by the time you figure all that, sometimes you end up with 2 people in a district, you got to print a specific ballot style for 2 people. Now, most of the other people, there's 38,000 or 32,000 people that use ballot style 56. These, if you had selected, I want a separate ABE cast vote record by precinct, then you can create it this way, and you can go in and look at each precinct. But I'm going to move forward here. Now, you may have seen there that there were some missing ballot images. Well, in Dane County, Wisconsin, it's a split county, and some precincts are in a different county, and so they have this funky thing in Wisconsin where one county will count the votes for the next county because some of their people are in our, anyway. And so there's Green City and Jefferson County are kind of split between 2 counties. So the counties figure out that the 561 people that are in those areas is the difference between how many votes that were counted and the total that was on the cast vote record. Let me see if I can find the one that here's the one I'm looking for. Okay. This is an example of an election report that would be printed by the election management system. Pima County uses ES&S. So this is an example of a precinct. Now we've jumped to Somerset, Maryland. And this is an ABE report, and you can see that it's coming up with the same numbers. 447 for this governor and lieutenant governor pair, 332, 332. So obviously we're trying to verify the accuracy of one thing by seeing if the results are the same when we run it under a different system. Here's some example of undervotes. Or write-ins. If you fill in the box that it's a write-in, now 2 election workers from different parties have to look at it and say, okay, this person wrote in Gregory Padgett. Was Gregory Padgett in Arizona? You can be a write-in candidate, but you have to do certain things to be a qualified write-in candidate, and then we'll count those for you. If you're Jonathan Tyler and you just wrote in your own name or your brother's name or somebody, and you're not a qualified write-in candidate, we don't count votes for them, and we don't count none of the above, and usually the biggest one is Mickey Mouse. And Donald Duck usually takes second. So there's write-in issues. Here's an interesting example of a voter in Maryland was voting on all of these constitutional amendments. And instead of filling in the bubble, circled. Oh, these weren't these were actually, no, these were candidates. Circled the name and circled the bubble. Did that 14 times. On 13 of the 14 times, no mark crossed through the bubble, but on one of them, it did. And so it only recorded a vote for that constitutional amendment. All these other votes for this voter were as though they had not cast it. So if you had a race though that was decided by one or two and you had to go back and look at the write-ins or these undervotes, these would be undervotes. Here's overvotes. Vote for one and they voted for two. Vote for one and they voted for five or four or whatever. Now, if they fill in the bubble, the same for everybody, you can't tell which one they, but maybe you hit one that has a hesitation mark where they touched the pen, lifted it up, and then said, oh no, I really wanted Dan Cox. Would you count that as a vote for Dan Cox? I would. If I was sitting at a table and somebody said, we're trying to determine voter intent here, I'd say Dan Cox. If I go back, I can't tell whether this, I mean, the mark for Dan Cox and the mark for Wes Moore are about the same. I can't tell that. But on that one, this might help you determine that if the adjudication people decided that this vote went to Dan Cox, okay, we're good with that. There's overvotes. I'm going to go a little quickly here. This is another report that comes out of an election management system, Somerset County, Maryland, 6,958. I think this was, John picked this one because you can show it, you can do something with 6,000 or 7,000 voters in a few seconds. And you can check by precinct, and there might, I don't know how many precincts they might have had, and pick up what we're talking about. Now you can hyperlink a ballot image and the cast vote record. And you can say, over here, there is a vote in this race for Terry Evers, or Tony Evers. Tony Evers was reflected as the vote recorded in the cast vote record. In this race, is it Josh Call for Attorney General? Yes. What's on the ballot image matches the cast vote record. You want to do that on one ballot? You want to spot check every 15th one? You want to pick a whole precinct and go ballot by ballot? Or do you want to check all 6,942 or wherever they were? Other kind of examples where that person their vote was not counted because they circled the circle instead of getting a mark of blackness inside the circle. And if Donald Trump lost or won in this jurisdiction by one vote, that'd be a big deal. That's it.
ABE is a simple Excel macro that links ballot images to CVRs. It lets people and election departments audit results quickly, securely, and independently. Elections. Play here. With ABE, you can hyperlink 350,000 ballots to their records in under 3 minutes. Generate 247 precincts in Excel spreadsheets for auditing purposes using a computer with an i7 processor and 64 GB of RAM, completing the task in under 45 minutes. Review overvotes and undervotes to resolve voter intent issues. Done with speed and accuracy that you visually see and verify. The system is secure and efficient, operating independently without direct connection to any election management systems, EMS. ABE functions solely as a standalone computer, receiving data from the EMS exclusively through an air-gapped network. Are these systems subject to manipulation? On Election Day 2024, at least 227 bomb threats were reported across key U.S. counties, including 16 in Arizona. Federal authorities traced many of these threats to Russian email domains. Ask yourself, what better distraction for a cyber operation? While law enforcement scrambled, election systems were left exposed. That's not speculation, it's a national security concern. It doesn't take much. Hacking an election can take just 5 minutes of access. With tools like a USB utility knife, a person could take over an election management system, EMS. Plant self-activating malware. Use hidden Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to transmit results. Leave no human-readable trace. Cybersecurity expert Ray Lutz warned of this exact threat. A USB hacker tool could change virtually any election result given access. Read Ray's full report. Why ABE matters. ABE exposes fraud by comparing the ballot image and spreadsheet. If they don't match, something's wrong. 30 days following the election, auditors who have completed their audits and submitted their results should be permitted to select several images, schedule an appointment, and require the election official to locate the appropriate box. The operator would then open the box, photocopy the relevant ballot, and compare it to the auditor's copy as a final verification step. This process aims to provide additional assurance regarding the integrity of the election. What trust looks like. When people trust elections, voter turnout rises. Trust comes from evidence, not secrecy. Better candidates step forward. Election officials gain public respect and support for running elections that are transparent, trackable, and publicly verifiable. Why we named our program ABE. Publicly verifiable. Abraham Lincoln, who understood what we now face today. Lincoln warned that America's greatest threat would not come from abroad, but from within. Let them know the truth, and the country is safe. Abraham Lincoln. In 1838, he told the Young Men's Lyceum, "If destruction be our lot, we must ourselves be its author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide." Lincoln knew that the real danger was internal division and a loss of shared truth. Learn more and take action.